Hey, good evening. It's Wednesday, July 10th. As you can see, it's just after sunset here in the South Carolina Midlands. Thank you for being here for Everyday Talk 24/7. I'm going to finish up our little brief study on grief and God's perspective on grief. And the title for tonight is If Only I Had Known. If Only I Had Known. How many times have you and I said those very words? Something didn't turn out the way we expected. Maybe it was worse, maybe it was better. But every time we say that or think that, it gives us an indication of who we are and our finiteness and our lostness and confusion, and contrast it with the wonder and glory and awe of God. And that's the perspective that we need to have if we're going to be able to deal with grief in this world and not be overcome by it. So I'm going to read again where we started. I'm going to look at 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18, and we're going to make a couple comments about that. Let Paul himself make some comments about it. But we've looked at how we've seen that we don't have to be crushed in grief. And we have seen that God is there to rescue us in our grief. So now we have a context for Paul's words at the end of 2 Corinthians 4. So he says, after being encouraged, after actually saying that we can come to thanksgiving when things are hard, when we can be overflowing to the glory of God after the hard times, the grief, then he says, therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, inwardly we're being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary affliction, our light momentary troubles, are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So, we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary. What is unseen is eternal. You see, we don't know how the eternal plays out later in life, after we're gone, or even how it's going to play out a half hour from now. But Paul is reminding us that there's this unseen portion of reality that we don't have access to. But the unseen is far greater in scope and magnitude than the seen. And that's what we can't forget. That's why the thumbnail tonight is a picture of the Milky Way galaxy and just the vastness of it, the hugeness of it, the depth, even in this little picture, a depth and length we can't even begin to consider because it's so vast. And that's just a tiny portion of what is seen, but is mostly unseen. So that's what Paul is telling us. If we look at grief only through the eyes of the seen, in the immediate, what I can deal with right now, I have an incomplete picture. But if I look at it through eyes that are unseen, I'm trusting God, then whether it's for the next moment, the next hour, the next year, the next decade, the next life, we have a sense of understanding that's more than what we can see right now. So Paul says this light and momentary affliction. What does he mean by that? Well, he gives us a window in that in chapter 6, verses 3 through 10. Listen to Paul's description here. We put no stumbling block in anyone's path so that our ministry will not be discredited. Rather, as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way, in great endurance, in troubles, hardships, and distresses, in beatings, in imprisonments, in riots, in hard work, sleepless nights, and hunger. Sounds pretty rough, doesn't it? In purity, in understanding, patience, and kindness, in the Holy Spirit, and in sincere love, in truthful speech, and in the power of God. He's connected to the eternal here. That's what he's calling you and me to be. The internal impacts us in the present. But now notice what he says here. He's being upheld by weapons of righteousness in the right hand and in the left. through glory and dishonor, bad report and good report, genuine yet regarded as impostors, known yet regarded as unknown, dying and yet we live on, beaten and yet not killed, sorrowful yet always rejoicing. There's that theme of grief again. Grieving or sorrowful, but always rejoicing. Poor, yet making many rich. Having nothing, but possessing everything. Having nothing, yet possessing everything. See, he's got a window here to more than what we can see right in front of us. He's saying there's this unseen reality, which is far greater than anything I can ask or imagine or conceive of. That's what life is really all about. So we may appear to have nothing, yet we possess everything. That's the message. That's how we deal with grief. Yes, it strikes deeply. Yes, it weighs down so heavily on us. But that's not all there is. We rejoice in the midst of grief. You see, it's not grief or rejoicing. It's grief and rejoicing, sorrow and rejoicing. That's the great secret Paul is telling us. That's the peace that we find by fixing our eyes on what is not seen. Because the unseen is more real than anything that you and I can see. And that's, Paul gives us the context for grief. So if we embrace this, then that thought, if only I had known, it brings comfort to us. Because we don't know all that there is, but we know God is faithful. So I can react to the hard things of life, the things that cause grief, the things that cause sorrow, knowing that I don't see the whole picture. And again, not just for when we go to heaven, but for right now and tomorrow and the next day. So we can change if only I had known to I do know. God will be faithful. And that's how we deal with grief without being crushed, without being abandoned, how we can find comfort, how we can find thanksgiving and even rejoice. These are such precious words to us. Again, I love your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. It's just a beautiful comment today from last night's video. Check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful, long comment from a viewer. So moving to me. Thank you for being here, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. You have a great night. Bye-bye.